I went to homes of not just artisans, but the poorest across the country, inspired by Gandhiji to learn how India lives in its villages. Economic growth and the potential is so linked to the demographic dividend and the gender dividend. And it wasn't about me, it was about being a girl. The way to change behaviors is using entertainment education.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Policy Talks. We have with us a very eminent guest, Ms. Poonam Muttreja, who is the Executive Director of the Population Foundation of India, a woman of substance who's worked and who's lived her life with the people on the ground, working on gender issues, livelihood issues, and taking care of the population-related aspects in the most populous country of the world today, India. Welcome, Ms. Muttreja, to this talk show.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
The aspects of social development, women issues. There were caste-related issues ingrained in the country. And, you were one of the pioneers to lead these people towards economic well-being. How did that journey start?
Though my parents treated me well, but the society constantly made me, relatives and others, aware. And my parents, my mother was humiliated by a lot of people for producing a third daughter. That made me very aware of the fact that there's discrimination. I didn't know the words, but there's discrimination. And as I grew up, I saw that girls were discriminated against, women were discriminated against. And it wasn't about me, it was about being a girl. I was fortunate to have an attitude where I said, let me do something about it. I began to observe society. I began to observe there were violations not just against girls and women, but Dalits. And in Delhi, from college, I found there was a colony of leather workers. And I found they were totally discriminated in the sector where they were getting 5 rupees to make beautiful handbags. And I got them out of their formal jobs and we started producing and they started earning better. And that led me to going to work with leather workers in different parts of Rajasthan. And then when I read British history and India's economic growth, I realized that the artisans had been pushed out of the market. So with the single goal of bringing artisans back to the market, I invited a few others to join me in starting Dastakar. But before that, I went to homes of not just artisans, but the poorest across the country, inspired by Gandhiji to learn how India lives in its villages. And the second thing I learned was the power of data. As an activist, many of us, we use the power of 2 women said this, which doesn't lead to policy or program change. But the combination of bringing the data, the analysis, the work of others, all this is very powerful for those who want to make a change.
You have worked very closely with the women. Very well, you understand the inequalities and you spoke about it. What do you think, because this is ingrained in the society, it needs a behavioral change, it needs a mindset, a complete change of mindset, probably. But from a policy perspective, what do you think has been the gap over decades that we are still struggling with the same question and how we can solve it in the coming times?
I was very privileged to hear a presentation by the head of the MIT Media Lab. And they had done an analysis of IAC money spent globally, and how it had all been wasted. And that the way to change behaviors is using entertainment education. So I became a student of that and I started studying. And within a year, I started a program on Doordarshan called Main Kuch Bhi Kar Sakti Hu.
Yeah. Remember those episodes. We've all seen that.
What worked? I want to give more credit and almost the entire credit to women of India. They always had aspirations which were locked the minute they were born, literally. But today they have got unlocked with the exposure to the media. And it is in the interest of all of us and our country's GDP, our family lives, our happiness, every index, if we begin to invest seriously in women. We've cracked it where we know what to do. Why aren't we doing it? So first, we have to ensure that the women's education across higher secondary is made almost, if I may use the word, a law mandatory for government to support. And if the government makes it a law, it'll be easier for an average girl to go to college. Then we have to implement this age at marriage, 18. If there is one intervention I'd like to mention which will ease women's lives, whether they are housewives or they are especially going out to the workforce, and that is caregiving. So giving women the opportunity to participate in labor force without the burden of caregiving, which is the biggest stumbling block for women, is something that I think will make a big difference in women's lives at all levels, and also create a belief in society, which is a reality, that a home where women are treated with respect, or countries where women are treated with respect and equality, do much better. Look at look at Sweden, look at many of the countries which are very high in gender indexes. They do very well and they're much happier countries.
I completely agree. Completely agree. And this brings me to my last question. And I am focusing this question on, the population, the demographic dividend in particular. You are leading the Population Foundation of India. India's future looks very bright looking at the demographic dividend. What do you have to say about that? And what do you think how all of us can be prepared and be ready to encash the dividend?
See, if we invest in the health, education, and job opportunities, not just for India, but also India can be the supporter of the world, which is going through such a rapid decline in populations, working age populations. Japan, Russia, China, and much of Europe. We get these countries which are very worried and we help them make policies, and they also invest money in skilling as per their future needs that they identify. So if they need medical doctors, then they invest in medical schools, or at least pay for, some arrangement. In Japan and India are working that out.
Even the elder care, Japan is right now looking at that.
So investing in their jobs, investing in their mental well-being. See, any society that has huge young populations also brings, because of generation gaps and so on, brings mental well-being issues. So we must invest in our young. And Indians can really, it's also soft power, having, when we have so many American corporations led by Indians, including the World Bank, it is India's soft power. So I believe that economic growth and the potential is so linked to the demographic dividend and the gender dividend.
I can't agree more. It's been a wonderful conversation with you, Poonam. Truly a pleasure having you. You are an inspiration for the women of the country.
That's very nice.
And we really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for being at ISB Studios.